This is the CreaseCast.
Welcome to the CreaseCast, everybody. Hi.
Welcome. Hello, children. It is episode 143 of the CreaseCast from the Crease Cave with the Crease ASMR with our new mics.
Yeah.
How does it sound, folks? Leave a comment in the YouTube video or in an Apple podcast review. So I don't think Spotify has reviews, do they?
No, they don't. Most podcast platforms do not have review forms
Just the
anyway.
Apple one?
It's
And
just
like probably
Apple.
like Podbean or all the weird
Yeah,
ones.
like some of like the random ones. Leave a like on YouTube. That
yeah,
is
we
also
like
a
that
very
too.
good help. That really helps us out.
Yeah.
It's cool being in here today. Like, we got, thanks to our lovely patrons, we were able to get Cody a new microphone, like a real serious studio microphone.
Thanks, everyone.
And yeah, honestly, like looking at it today, like literally right now, I'm sitting with Cody. There's hockey on the TV right now, Pittsburgh and Tampa, on ESPN. I might add, this is the first ESPN broadcast. And you know, we're looking at the monitor. We can see like what we're doing. We can see the whole show.
We can see our hats.
We can see our hats.
We're wearing hats, everybody. If you want to check the YouTube channel, you can see our hats because we're both wearing hats inside.
Yeah,
Because my hair is disgusting.
honestly, yeah. So is mine. I shaved today, but like I shaved yesterday, knowing first day of hockey season, wanted to have the clean shaven face again. And honestly, though, I'm very excited because you know, like this is the show I wanted to do from day one, like when I started the show in 2019.
With like a full lab or not lab,
more or less
like a studio.
Yeah, a little bit. Like maybe like I love I always wanted to put it on YouTube. I always wanted to be able to, you know, bring in like cool microphones and like actually have like a proper studio setup and everything for us. Obviously wanted a cool co-host. I'm still looking for that.
Yeah, still a work in progress.
Still trying to find that a cool co-host. I've got Cody in the meantime, but no, in all seriousness, I'm happy you're here. First day of the season. This feels like the first serious episode of the year in a way.
Where we can actually talk about the team and it's like there's some kind of like weight to it, because like preseason it's like hands are up in the air. I don't know who knows what anything means, who knows what the roster means, what the lineup decisions mean, but now we actually know because the Canucks made their final decisions of the season opening roster, and some of those moves were a bit questionable given everything that we did see during preseason. I guess we'll run right through them because like
it's changing day to day in a way.
It changes day to day, and this past weekend, which was Thanksgiving weekend, so happy Thanksgiving to all of you. We're thankful for you for listening to us.
Yes.
First off, that's
true.
number one. Number two, we are thankful for turkey gravy.
Is that your go-to? Is that your favorite thing? What are like your top three in terms of like Thanksgiving dishes?
Oh, I thought you were going to say top three things I'm most thankful for in my life.
You can do that too.
Okay, top three things I'm most thankful in my life. 1, turkey gravy.
Nice.
2, bacon. And then 3, my wife and family.
That's lovely.
In order.
Where do I rank on that list?
Probably 4th, I guess.
That's okay. Okay, cool. I can take 4th.
I guess I would lump you in with everything surrounding like hockey.
Okay.
So just be like hockey, and then like, you know, podcasting with Lachlan, and then like very bottom tracking stats, which I've committed to for some reason.
I can't help you there. That was your decision alone.
I was thinking about it because like Roxy was like, "Oh, you want to go see the new James Bond movie this weekend?" And I was like, "Oh, that sounds really fun." And I was like, "Wait, let me check the AHL schedule. I know they're on a road trip, but I got to check."
Are they already playing this week?
They start Friday.
Wow, I didn't think they started that quickly. I thought they had another week.
They leave Thursday to go down to California to begin their 4-game road trip or whatever, and it's like they play Friday, Sunday, Monday, or Friday, Saturday, Sunday, or whatever it is. It doesn't matter. Mm-hmm. They're on a 4-game road trip start, and I was like, oh, I guess we're gonna have to start the movie at like 7 or something, because I'm probably gonna have to track stats in the morning. And I had like a bit of like back on the grind again, and which I love. Don't get me wrong. I like having being the only guy willing to commit his life to provide very, very niche details to the Canucks fan base.
There is always someone who wants that, though. There's always someone who wants that. Like, don't ever discount the fact that you're doing hard work for people who care about it. Like the fact, and the people who listen to this show. You guys all care about it. You guys care enough to listen to our crummy show every single week, and we appreciate
crummy.
That. You're right. This is a good show.
We got 4 jerseys on the wall.
Count them 4.
Come on.
Yeah, we got 4. We got a shelf with bobbleheads
we
on
got
it.
a $5 shelf with shoes on it.
Yeah, we
Give me
we
a
don't have a
break.
shoe rack yet, but we're working on that. That's the next purchase on the Patreon, I guess.
Yeah. Please fund a new shoe rack for the show.
Yeah. I was gonna say, in terms of like for my like Thanksgiving foods, I would say like I very much, for just the regular thing, I care about, thankful for family, for friends, and I would say for content as well.
Yeah, the memes.
The memes.
The memers and the dreamers, the big two.
Yes. Those are, all good things. And then in terms of food though, like I would say I'm a big sucker for potato salad, or like a good, like
really?
a good,
Like of all the foods, that would be your first.
It's stuffing, like
good.
And then honestly, so this is usually an off the post convo, but like we have a lot of content to get to, but I'll just really quickly throw it in. I once made Swedish meatballs for Thanksgiving one
That's
year.
not bad.
And they were good. They were
good.
really good. It was the first. I'd never tried them before. They turned out really well. I made a tweet about them that Eddie Lach liked.
Oh, there you go.
So it was all worth it. It was all worth it in the end. That's the one good dish I've ever made for Thanksgiving, I think.
Nice. I didn't have to cook Thanksgiving dinner this weekend, so that was wonderful. Before we get into the actual Canucks talk, 'cause I know that's what you're like.
Yes, this is what you're here
screaming
for.
At us right now, being
we
like,
have a lot
please
today.
talk about the Canucks. I'm begging you. Little hot take. Turkey sucks.
Like full turkey? Are we talking like the full turkey?
Turkey in general.
You know what? I like turkey. I will agree that I think turkey's a little overrated as far as like a thing, but I do like it on sandwiches. Like I like turkey slices and turkey, and just like turkey, I don't know what to call them, like thins, I guess, or
Thin mints?
or like
Turkey thin mints?
Turkey thin mints. No, I don't like those. I guess just like the kind of like basically just like the little slabs you get for your sandwiches and stuff. Like I do like turkey in that form. I'm also not as big on the whole big roast turkey thing. Like that's not. I'm more of a ham guy. I like ham. Yeah.
I'm a big fan of the ham.
Yeah.
Which is maybe that's why we get along so well on this show.
Yeah.
We're just a couple hams.
We're such hams talking about Travis Ham probably today.
Oh my God. I don't even want to talk about Travis.
You know what? There's
Ham
not really much to say there because we still don't know exactly what's going on, other than the fact that he's now in. I keep almost saying Utica, Abbotsford now.
I almost. We'll get into this later too, but I went to the training camp this past weekend. I almost called the team the Utica Comets to Trent Call.
I honestly don't think I would not be surprised if he was doing the same thing. Like, I honestly wouldn't be surprised.
You'd just be like, yeah, whatever.
Yeah, I really don't think anyone would take it personally if you did. No. Like, yeah, you're used to calling them you've called them the Utica Comets now for what, 6 years, 7 years, a while now.
If you're like Trent Call, yeah.
Yeah, or like anyone really. Like
anyone
who's
if
been
you
watching
watch
the team for long enough. Yeah, like so I would not be surprised if you're going to see a lot of people trip up on that, especially just because the color scheme's the same, all the people here are the same.
Yeah, pretty much.
It's going to take a while to get used to.
Yeah, so why don't we
jump into some hockey
We'll
stuff.
jump into some actual hockey stuff. If you do want to actually listen to like a really good like discourse on the Travis Hamonic thing, check out whatever episode of the Vancast that just got dropped today about the Olli Juolevi situation. Drancer kind of basically dissects the entire Hamonic discourse in a pretty smart and educated way, and that's not really our style. We're not about smart and educated. We're about
we're working on it.
We're about brash.
We're about brash takes,
illogical,
with absolutely no thought put into them whatsoever.
Research on the fly. You'll see us Googling things as we're recording if you're watching on the YouTube channel. So yeah, that's kind of our jam. So we'll get right into the on-the-fly evaluations and dissection of
new
our
Canucks midday show host Drancer as
yeah,
well.
That's
we
right.
should mention.
Congrats, buddy.
He's decided to come down to my level of doing a show Monday to Friday. So
that's the spirit.
So
side note, 650 actually made a couple moves. They made Drancer their midday show.
Oh, that's right. The other one,
and then
arguably the bigger one.
Faber and Quadrelli a weekend show,
Holy
or like a pregame
shit.
show. Like that's huge.
That's huge. Good buddies of ours. Yeah, like we're so happy.
Program.
Friends of the show, Patreon members. Like we're thrilled for them.
Some special boys. And
yeah,
we're really happy for them.
No one more deserving. They have worked so hard. I'm glad that you know what. Like obviously it sucks when people get laid off and everything like that. I'm glad it came Like, I'm glad that at the very least that it's been
Local
used
boys.
to bring in some local talents, some
Yeah.
local deserving talents have gotten their opportunity, and that's good for Faber and Quads have worked so hard for this, so it's great to see them get this opportunity. So it's gonna be
agreed.
great for them.
All right, let's get right into it. Canucks, obviously, they set up their season opening roster. They put a couple guys on IR. They made some interesting moves beforehand. I think chronologically, how did this work out? I believe it was on the 9th, the 9th, the team put Phil DiGiuseppe, Justin Bailey, and Madison Bowie, and I think Travis Hamonic all on waivers to be assigned to the Abbotsford Canucks.
Yeah.
There's quite a bit to break down in this alone because I think most people thought that Phil DiGiuseppe had like carved out a spot on the roster.
He seemed like a lock for sure.
Yeah.
Like it was, I think I tweeted literally that if his name was in pencil before, it's in pen now.
Yeah.
And they dropped him anyway. I think was that the most shocking to you out of all of them?
Yeah, because Justin Bailey, he was obviously had no favors like on his side. Like he had the COVID thing when he was coming to Vancouver, and then he had his season shortened last year, so like he had a small rope. I mean, it helps them because there's no way anyone's going to claim him off of one preseason game. So like it's kind of in his best interest that he goes to Abbotsford and proves that he can do it. Madison Bowie, I think he played pretty good, all things considered, on that right side, but he's clearly not in their plans. They didn't even give him a look last season, so it was pretty clear. Like
he is just there for AHL depth in case someone gets hurt. That was, and I don't think anybody was under the impression that he was going to necessarily be part of it. Although,
no,
I will say near the end, I did think maybe there's a shot he's number 8 or number 7, but I still thought the odds were a little low.
Yeah, us in the same boat. Like I thought he had done enough to maybe cement himself as like a decent number 8, but you knew the team values Luke Shen so much that they would never put him in the AHL just because they don't want to ruin their cred with pending UFAs, right?
Yeah. And it's a lot less likely that, say, a Madison Bowie walks through the waiver wire without getting claimed than, say, a Luke Shen. Luke Shen to a team that's competing for a championship would look at them and be
they would
like,
have no
that's
problem.
that's a good 7th or 8th guy for us.
Yeah. So but the DiGiuseppe thing was probably easily the most shocking, purely because he was arguably one of their top 8 forwards during preseason, and it is preseason, killing. But they gave him penalty killing, and he wasn't really known for that in New York. He has a better scoring, a proven scoring record in the NHL above players like Highmore and McEwen. So you're kind of like, well, if he's ticking all these boxes, why would they send him down?
Yeah,
unless. I mean, it has to be cap related or something, and they're just hoping he slid by because of the volume, the sheer volume.
They're lucky he didn't. Because he looked really, really good. Mm-hmm. The penalty killing aspect alone, you thought was going to keep him around because they're very clearly starved for good penalty killers. Mm-hmm. And and in the opportunities he was getting, he was looking very good. Yeah. And they usually value that so much in that fourth line. And he would look like he had chemistry with Justin Dowling. He looked like he was doing okay with, with the wingers with the extra winger that they'd throw him with. It seemed like he was a sure bet. And I'm sure we'll talk about Will Lockwood in a second here too. Yeah, just two guys. I don't know. I think my biggest question, and I think it is for you too, is what did, say, Matthew Highmore or Zach McEwen had done at that point to warrant staying over Phil DiGiuseppe? Because I don't think they did.
Well, I have a feeling it has something to do with the Alex Chiasson thing. I have a feeling there's a disconnect between guys that Jim Benning and the management team went out and acquired in the offseason and guys that Travis Green is willing to give
really
more
wanted,
rope to.
Yeah.
Because the new guys that made the team were Vasily Podkolzin, who was going to get a look in the NHL no matter what.
Yeah.
And a guy that Travis Green once coached in the Portland Winterhawks in Nick Petan.
Nick Petan was an interesting one because he doesn't kill penalties. I see why it makes sense right now because, we're going to talk about the fact that Brock Besser is still hurt, and it doesn't seem like he's coming back for at least the first week, I guess.
Well, they said he's going to be on the road trip.
Oh, okay. Okay, so that's good.
I mean, you'd hope that
I
means
think
he will play and
yeah.
be ready to go.
I will say in Patan's case, I think he's just there to cover for Brock Besser specifically because that is what his role is. He's if he's not, he's either playing top 6 or he's at most third line at most because he's not a penalty killer. He's more of a power play. He's more going to be on your power play if that. It makes more sense that he's just there to fill in on Pettersson's and Miller's side. Because notice they didn't split those two up, right?
Yes.
So it very much seems like you are Besser's replacement until he gets back.
So their whole logic is if there's an injury in the top 6, Nick Patan is our guy to move up into that spot because Travis Green trusts him.
Yeah. Is that the way, if you were coaching, I know neither of us are necessarily coaching experts or anything, but like, would you go in that direction where you specifically are looking for guys to fill in the first or second line, or are you more the guy that says, okay, we shift up, everybody goes up 1, and then the next best guy on the totem pole goes 4th?
Well, I mean, logically, like if you've put together like a decent Stanley Cup contending team, it's next man up mentality where any guy in your wings or center can move up the lineup
and do fine
and completely gel and be fine.
Yeah.
Whereas this group,
they don't have that.
They've never been that way. They've always had we have a defined top 6 and a bottom 6 mentality where that's kind of changed in the last 2 years where they're clearly trying to have 3 scoring lines and 1 checking or like just like minute munching kind of 4th line. And you look at the roster that they've iced, or not iced, but like they have decided to open their season with, and you look at the forward depth, and you're like, is Nick Patan really the solution?
Is he really the 13th best guy you have?
Yeah.
And I will say in Patan's case, I think it is a little bit more like, in theory, he is probably the 13th most talented guy they have. Mm-hmm. For me, it's more about like I think Zach McEwen is the big one, and I know a lot of people really like Zach McEwen, so I'll watch myself here.
Well, they might not like him after the Zach Cashin fight. They might. I think that might have been.
That was not his. Well, okay,
it wasn't his fault.
It wasn't his fault, but it also wasn't not his fault. Like you didn't need to have the fight. So that's why this happened, but you also didn't try to do that to him.
It's 50-50, right? Like it's two grown adults agreeing to fight each other, right?
Yeah.
On ice. Like, I mean, it's bound to happen where something bad happens, but I think for a lot of people, like Zach McEwen's a very likable guy. He seems like a really chill dude.
He's a likable
guy. He's got a cute dog on IG.
Very cute dog.
Good story on his whole development path and just like the unlikelihood of actually making it to the NHL in the first place.
A guy you seriously want to succeed at and you want to see defy the odds.
Yes. The GM came out, like went to bat for him, said, Zach McEwen's an NHLer. And since that moment, kind of like a jinx, he just hasn't done anything with that statement of support.
No.
And the fight, I think for a lot of people was kind of like, oh, if this is all he can do, which is get into fights that really hurt people, what else is there?
Right. You can't in today's NHL, you cannot have a guy on your roster clogging up a roster spot whose only job is to fight people. And I don't think that's really what they see Zach McEwen as, just to be clear. I don't think they see Zach McEwen that way.
But I think that's all he can bring.
That's all every time it only seems like he ever is making an impact is when he does that.
Yeah.
Because he's not really contributing offensively. He's not really
he's not a good defensive player.
No.
He doesn't penalty kill. They tried him in preseason and didn't really work.
No. It's a very weird. That one was the weirdest one, and I guess it's not that they figured that out necessarily. It's that some stuff has changed in the last 24 hours that kind of made him more expendable.
Yeah.
I guess. Do you want to get into Olli Juolevi or do you want to go into Chason? Because
we'll
there's
go into
two
the
different
Chason
directions.
thing first, and then we'll switch it up because obviously after the IR moves with Besser, Mott, Keeper, not Hamonic, Ferland. The Canucks had to then send all these guys down. So DJ Zatsapi, Bailey, Bowie, Hamonic. And then McEwen was interestingly sent down today, which is the day after the rosters needed to be submitted.
Yeah.
And then they decided to sign Alex Chiasson, which to me is a very like Travis Green thing.
That's
like
a
established
good way of
vet. It. He can only play prescribed 5v5 time and will be granted power play 2 time, which is interesting because we don't typically see this coach or this team ever give prescribed roles to players.
No.
Like they love guys in defined roles, and usually it's either you get prescribed minutes at 5v5 and you penalty kill, or that's it,
Yeah.
right? And here's a guy who's obviously he has like a decent record where he does
He's not
impact
bad.
the power play pretty well.
He's a good contributing piece alongside star players. That's been proven with his time in Edmonton.
I just don't think he did anything in the preseason.
He
to
didn't
warrant
do
it.
necessarily anything special, I think is the
From my point of view, I look at it like I get why the coach wants a Chiasson. He's a vet who can play the 5v5 PB2 specialty role. But for me, I'm like, why didn't you try that with Jonah Gadjevich?
That is the $1 million question. Hell, you know what? Like we just talked about Nick Patan. I think Nick Patan is better in that spot than Chiasson is. Would you not say?
I think he kind of is, right? Like I think Patan and Chiasson are both in that kind of, you guys are top 6 fillers because you guys are experienced enough, you know how to fill the void, basically.
Yes.
Whereas, like, Gadjevich, like, for those that don't know, Gadjevich's entire thing in the AHL was that he was great in the slot and in front of the net.
Which the Canucks have been looking for years.
Which they've been trying to do for years. This is exactly what they put Chiasson in the role for. They signed him to a PTO, and he spent the entire preseason at the net front of PP2. And for me, I'm like, you develop this kid who clearly put the strides in, worked on his skating. Why wouldn't you just try him out at the net front over an established vet who you know can do it regardless of preseason games?
Yeah.
Like, you spent 3 years developing the kid.
It's a waste of resources at the end of the day if you're not going to try something different. Like I get that you can't that not every player is going to turn into everything else, but you also don't know that if you don't try it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that was what this preseason kind of lacked, was a lack of let's try something different, or let's go against the grain that we've always gone with.
Mm-hmm.
And we can get that into that with like the Travis Hamonic signing in the offseason. Like there's a lot of like repetition with this management group and the coaching staff where they keep trying the same thing over and over and it doesn't really work.
Yeah.
And in this year, when the team is clearly once again out to make the Cup playoffs, you can't be sticking with a system that hasn't worked for like 6 out of 8 seasons.
This is a very different year from years past in the sense of like in the years before they kind of had to do that because they didn't have a choice. They didn't have the horses to get things done.
Yeah.
Come like the late spring playoff time spot, right? Now they do.
Mm-hmm.
So you expect more out of them, and you expect them to be able to make a different type of decision than they normally would. Like literally, we've talked about it multiple times already in the last like month. Is that this is the first time that the Canucks have genuinely had a top 9?
Well.
To a degree, in terms of like in the Jim Benning era, like this is a genuine like NHL top 9 as far as I'm concerned. Podkolzin still, the jury's going to be out until we see him in a regular season game.
Right.
But you have at least 8. You have at least 8 guys. Yeah. And then you see today, and then you see like the line rushes today.
And you're like, oh.
And like, why is Podkolzin playing on the 4th line? Why is Höglander on the 3rd? Why, like, and you're like getting, and it doesn't make any sense why you would put them in those roles. Like, I get Podkolzin is very good in his own end especially for a kid his age.
Mm-hmm.
But it doesn't make any sense because that's not what his role is supposed to be on this team. His role on this team is supposed to be as a scorer. Or at least as a playmaker. Yeah. And you're not going to get that if you're playing him fourth line minutes as much. You're not going to get those opportunities.
Especially with Matthew Highmore.
And Justin Delling. And that's,
like,
we
saw it in
Highmore in particular. He's not that guy.
Well, it's like we saw it in the final preseason game when Podkolzin, Pettersson, and I think Höglander were on a line. They looked pretty good.
They looked pretty good.
I was thinking while they were playing together, and I saw Podkolzin setting up Pettersson for one-timers, and I was like, that's great. If he has that pass like just an inch to the right or left, maybe Pettersson buries that, and that's his first preseason point. And then I'm like, okay, but now on the line rushes, they're putting him out with Matthew Highmore, who has like 6 points in his last like 100 NHL games or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Like, how is that going to lead to any kind of success? And instead of, I don't know, keeping like a better player that proved a lot more and has a better scoring record in like a Phil Di Giuseppe.
Yeah.
You stuck with him because you went with the devil you know instead of the devil you don't.
Yeah.
Like, can you afford to do that?
Yeah. And I saw somebody tweet out I think it was yesterday, basically like this is your yearly reminder that preseason actually doesn't dictate all that much, and it's actually that your preseason performance really doesn't have anything to do with where you go.
Right.
Because again, Phil DiGiuseppe was very good in the preseason, and Highmore very much wasn't. Like, I did not like what I saw from him.
He looked good in one game.
The only times I noticed him, other than the one game was when he was taking penalties. And it's like, well, you can't do that if you're the penalty killer. You cannot. You have to be the most disciplined guy. Yeah. So what are you doing?
Even Tyler Myers learned that from last year.
Yeah, Tyler Myers has actually looked okay in the preseason, I would say. Like,
that's the most shocking thing about preseason.
Yeah,
he looked kind of all right.
He looked much more. I will say he looked much more reliable in his own end than I saw from him last year.
Yeah.
And I hope that's what we get from him this year. He looked a lot more comfortable. Maybe he knows he has to take on a different role this year because of the way that left side is structured. Which, like, hey, power to him for actually being able to, if that is the case, like being able to actually adjust to that. Because sometimes that's hard. That's hard for you to do, especially as an older guy who's been in the NHL for a long time. Yeah. It's hard to be told, what do you mean? I've been successful at this other thing for the last 12 years. Why is this suddenly a problem now? So if he has changed it up a little bit, that's good. Well, it's good that he's adapting.
Maybe it was after I think the first preseason game, he logged 25 minutes or something of ice time, and like 6 minutes of it was on the PK. So I'm like, maybe he's like, I can't be as aggressive as I really want to be in the offensive zone. I can't be doing the end-to-end rushes purely because Travis Green is going to play the ever-loving shit out of me this season because
they got nothing else.
Look behind me. It's Tucker Pullman, who is very unproven. He can probably be fine, but he isn't putting in 25 minutes. And then you have Luke Shen, who might max out at 13.
You hope he can do something. Yeah, you hope he can find his pace again. Maybe Kyle Burrows, because Kyle Burrows also.
He looked pretty good.
Kyle Burrows made the team.
Yeah.
And he's been playing.
No relation to Alex.
No. And he's paired with Rathbone. They have him paired with Rathbone in rushes today. So they might actually be planning to go into opening night with Shen in the press box and Burrows instead. Did you like what you saw from Burrows? I'm not as good I'll admit that I'm not I'm not as good at judging, say, defensemen as I am with forwards.
Yeah.
But overall, I don't think it wasn't with Burrows. I think he was very steady. I felt like he handled himself pretty well against bigger competition. I think he and I think the thing, like what we always ask of like the younger guy, of like the guy stepping up in that role, is just don't be a liability. Just be able to tread water and not be a liability in your own end. And I think he did okay with that.
Yeah, like he's an interesting player because like he spent so many years like toiling in the AHL, like developing, and then just recently got like that final look with Colorado. And he's like a bit of an undersized guy. I think he's only like 5'10" or like 6 feet tall or whatever, but he's slight. He's not like a big dude. So that's why I thought it was interesting that he was on a pair with Rathbone, because most of the time this coach has proven time and time and again, he doesn't want like Hughes out with Stetcher. He would never play a Rathbone with a Stetcher or a Hughes with, Rathbone or whatever. Like he wants like a bigger guy on one side so he can like physically box players out instead of like using their skating or whatever it is.
Yeah.
But he acquitted himself well. He looked good. He skates well. He doesn't really move the puck that, it's not that dynamic. He doesn't really jump off the page with his offensive capabilities. No. He's just completely safe. And usually when this coach deploys his safe defenseman, he usually wants them to have some size on them. And, that's not really the case with Burrows, so that's why I was like pretty surprised to see him actually land on the opening roster over, say, like Madison Bowie, who's like 6'6" or whatever. Like he's like a complete unit.
Yeah.
But yeah, he was fine. When I was clipping games, I didn't really notice him that much, which is usually a good sign.
Yeah. For some player, like we've said it before, some players you should be noticing whenever they're on the ice. Some players you shouldn't.
Yeah.
So if there are certain players who aren't necessarily stepping into into your memory and are just being very steady, making the smart plays, even if they're not flashy. That's good.
Yeah.
And then there are some players like I brought up Tucker Pullman already in this preseason before, where it's like I literally don't remember him on the ice, and then I'll see a shot whistle like 2 feet over the net and be like, oh, there's Tucker Pullman. I forgot you were here. And you want more from that guy. And
they need to get that guy a shooting coach so bad.
Yeah. And
so bad.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Just literally Tucker Pullman just needs to start hanging out with Brock Besser every single day and just start doing the one-timers. Just start working one-timers with Brock. Like that, get him right back up to speed.
Yeah. Speaking of unnoticeable and now no longer with us. R.I.P. Our bad.
Our bad is right.
I mean, it wasn't us.
We didn't do it. This was not our fault. I refuse to take blame.
Yeah, we didn't break it. We didn't break his knees and make him incapable of defending off the rush, defending in space. But Olli Juolevi, the Canucks' former 5th overall pick from 2016, flipped to the Florida Panthers in exchange for Juho Lammikko, a local boy from Surrey, and Noah Juulsen.
I think Noah Juulsen is the local kid, I think.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because Noah Juulsen, I believe, is from I want to say he's from
Surrey?
Yeah, you're right.
Do I just have the
Lammikko's Finnish. They traded one Finn to get another one back.
Oh.
Yeah.
For some reason, I thought Noah Juulsen was the Finnish one, and the other kid was from Surrey.
Interesting. Yeah, no.
I don't know why I thought that, but anyway.
Well, that's good on you.
I guess I could read our notes where it says local Abbotsford ties.
Whoops, that's that's funny.
My bad, guys. But yeah, good on the team for finally recognizing that it wasn't going to work with Juolevi. He had the worst preseason camp, I think, ever imaginable. Like I think we were saying earlier, like it was helpful to him that Hughes and Pettersson were kind of holding out on their contract negotiations, because if they were at camp, the big storyline of preseason camp would just be how terrible he looked, and there would be nothing else to talk about. He
would have gotten a much shorter look than he did.
Yes, I agree. But I mean, he looked awful in preseason, unfortunately. Turning was still an issue. Speed was an issue. He has his stretch passes, like whatever. I know Twitter goes nuts whenever he gets like a good pass to like, up ice or like a clean breakout or whatever. But it's like the bare minimum you can offer as a defenseman. Like it doesn't matter if you can stretch a pass, but if you can't ever get to the puck because you're too slow or you're not fast enough to engage in board battles and you just have to be a pylon, like you're never going to make it in the league. And it is, to me, it's kind of amazing that the Canucks were able to flip him for 2 pieces.
Yeah, especially like after we talked about, with Gadjevich, how they lost him for nothing. Like, I'll give them credit. They got pieces back for Juolevi, which I honestly thought would be hard, very, very hard to do.
They might not be.
They're not guaranteed NHLers by any stretch of the imagination. No, but they got something back. They got value back for value. Yeah. And, I talked about this on Locked On today, about how it's kind of nuts looking back on just how much of a struggle this, like what a crazy struggle, like Olli Juolevi and particularly his draft year for the Canucks went, because it started with the Canucks having the 3rd best odds in the lottery. They lost. The Winnipeg and Columbus leapfrog them and the Oilers
from 16th.
The Oilers,
I believe the Winnipeg Jets went to second.
And the team the team that was already in front of them was the Edmonton. Was the whole reason that lottery system was in place, because they won 4 drafts in way too quickly. And that turned it, and then the Canucks lost out on obviously Austin Matthews, Patrick Laine, Pierre-Luc Dubois, if you want to throw him in there, or
Matthew Tkachuk.
and Jesse Puljujarvi. And then there's the fact of, well, they still had Tkachuk on the board, but then they took a defenseman because they were like, we have too many forwards already, good forward prospects already. We don't need another, even though in the first round of a draft, frankly, in any draft, you should always take the best player available, even if it's not necessarily what you need, because they're not going to be ready right away unless they're Austin Matthews or Patrick Laine. They're not going to be ready right away. And man, did that draft go south for them. Not just in Juolevi. Like, Juolevi is the big one, but then you look at that entire draft class, which I believe was before The famous like Judd bracket starting to take over and like starting to get more say in the draft decisions.
I believe that draft was heavily influenced by the U18s.
Right.
I'm sure there will be someone in our DMs to clarify, and we appreciate you for sliding in our DMs with the correct information. You know who you are. But I'm pretty sure the U18s dictated heavily that 2016 draft, and then obviously, all they have to show for it is Will Lockwood potentially, and now these two pieces they picked up in the trade, which isn't great when you come in with 5th overall. And I will never forget watching that 2016 draft and Columbus picking Pierre-Luc Dubois, and you hearing like the gasps and the shock of the audience because people just could not believe that they picked him over Tkachuk. Like that's
Tkachuk and Puljujarvi,
yeah, and I mean, even in hindsight too, you look at that draft and like there was way better defensemen that were picked, like even up in the 10s, like Sergachev was picked.
That's right, Mikhail
like
Sergachev went later. God, that was wow.
Yeah, like they whiffed, but like you look at that first round in the 2016 draft in general, and it's not a good draft. Like it's brutal. Like
generally speaking,
they goofed, but relatively speaking, like.
Well,
how much worse could it have gone?
Then here's the thing, right? Like it went terribly for them, but not just because of their own mistake. It also was just the worst, the most, and for
it was
Olli,
a really bizarre
the
draft.
most rotten luck of all time.
Yeah.
Like just in the fact that he hurts his back before he can play a game in North America. Then he has the knee surgeries. Then there's I think there was some other a hip injury in there as well.
Well, what happened was I think he went to the first camp after being drafted, and they said, you need to put on weight, like you're way too undersized. So he put on a shit ton of weight, and then he blew out his knee.
Because his body was not used to size.
It. And then he had to change his game to being adjusted to a broken knee and being like overweight. And then he started having lower back issues, so he needed the spinal surgery. And then he blew out his knee again, and then it was
problem
after problem.
It was a mixture of just the worst luck, but also some making your own issues. Like specifically in terms of, I'm talking about management here. Like they did not know, they really didn't know what to do with him, and they kind of messed him up like big time to the point where we're talking about him now. He's traded for a couple, not no names, but like
but
not
non-factor assets.
Non-factor assets. And we were talking about we watched him. You watch him in skating. He gets, and you watched him more than I think just about anybody. You see him like guys at the AHL level, not very fast. The AHL is not a fast game. No. Bearing down on him, and he can't turn. And it's so sad, and it's sad to watch. Like it's not even like you're like, it's not like you're going like, oh, this guy sucks. It's very much like God, if just one thing had gone right for him, if he had just been able to stay healthy in certain times, he might have been useful. He maybe he was never going to be the top pairing defenseman that they expected him to be, and it was a bad pick at that spot overall. But you at least believe that without the injury stuff and with everything else, that he would have become like a serviceable 5th or 6th guy.
He at the very least would have been worth more than like Noah Juleson, who was also like a flamed out 1st round draft pick and just like a non-starter 4th liner.
Yeah.
Like, you would hope he would end up being a bit worth a bit more than that.
And I think you can agree with me that I think we hope he finds that success in Florida. He finds some whatever form of success he can in Florida.
Here's what I'm hoping for this Canucks season. Not even Canucks season, just NHL season in general. I'm in that like wonky brain stage where I just hope for the worst for Canucks fans because
why?
Because I love
great. We're never gonna get a listener
because I'm a fatalist and I find everything bad that happens I find funny. So if Jonathan Dahlen puts up 20 goals for San Jose, that's hilarious. If Jonah Gadjevich starts 40 games and he scores 10 times, that's so funny to me. If Cole Lind plays his debut tonight because they have a bunch of COVID issues and he scores a goal, that's amazing. You know what I mean? Like the funnier, like where you just have to sit back and laugh at how all these guys were on this team's depth chart at one point and are doing well elsewhere while the Canucks are figuring out who of Shen, Burrows, and maybe Brad Hunt on his offside are going to play tonight instead of Tucker Pullman. Like, I live for the dark black comedy.
But here's my question. Why can't the Canucks be the team that does that to other people? Why can't we be the ones who are picking up random guys from God knows where and then having them just dunk on the other team relentlessly? Like, why can't we be the ones dishing that out? I mean, I know why.
You know why, but here, let me explain it to you. So the players that the Canucks go after in these instances are fucking awful and do not jive with the team ever. Travis Boyd comes in, goes like 28 games without a point. You know who the most offensive and best producer they picked up from another team? It was like UC Jokinen. When he had like 9 points in 7 games.
UC Jokinen was really good in his last little.
That's what I mean. Like
that was fun.
So in 8 years for this organization, the best pickups they've had from other teams is like a 36-year-old.
Does he count?
But I
does
mean,
Tyler Toffoli count? You're talking about not the Sherbets, the rent.
If we're talking about like the castaways, right?
Yes.
Like the castaways the Canucks have picked up have mostly all been completely awful.
They've come exactly as advertised.
Yeah, because like you can't call Tyler Mott a castaway because the Canucks gave up Thomas Vanek, who had like 44 points.
Yeah, that was their big ticket move. That was their big ticket move.
Yeah, he wasn't a castaway. They were betting that Tyler Mott would be something for them, and he has been. But like the Travis Boyds, the Jimmy VCs,
the Derek Pouliot's,
Tim Schallers, like these guys that nobody wanted, that they went out of their way to grab off of waivers.
I was going to say Sam Gagner, but that's not really true. That's not an accurate one.
No. He scored in preseason the other day?
Oh my God, I did.
Oh yeah, so we were watching Sportsnet or whatever earlier, and Frank Saravalli came on, and I reminded Lachlan that he's apparently younger than me. He's like 30. And you know who's younger than me as well? Sam Gagner. And he looks like he's like a 48-year-old man.
Yeah, I'm like, this is what hockey does to you. When you watch hockey for as long as we have and everything, like your idea of like time and like what is old is so warped because like you're 30. I'm
31.
You're 31. And in hockey terms, that would mean you're like, you got one last contract in you before you're done.
I'm 4 years away from getting the 35-year-old plus contract where it's like you're guaranteed benefits in case your hip goes out or whatever.
Yeah, and then there's me. I'm in the awkward spot where I'm no longer the hot young rookie, but I'm also not the savvy veteran. So we were talking about this yesterday.
Like
I was like, I'm old news. Yeah, I'm the old news.
Yeah.
Like I'm not Connor McDavid. I'm just like I'm some guy. I'm just some guy who's doing okay things. I'm Troy Stetcher.
You're the guy that Dom Luszczyszyn was looking for when he was trying to find a
I'm
definition.
Carter Verhaeghe.
Yeah,
that's who I am. I'm Carter Verhaeghe.
Or you're the Tampa Bay Lightning's new Carter Verhaeghe, Taylor Radish.
I'm fine with that. I can live with that.
He's a guy.
Former World Junior guy. Actually, and I should say, speaking of like just like kind of like jokes with like Juolevi and everything, you know, we mentioned we did the t-shirts, like whole thing. Like again, like one of the things like talking about you knew it was over for him the second like those pictures.
Once you saw those pictures, you were like, yeah, this guy's fucking done.
Yeah, he's done. Like, and it was not a matter of like, I didn't think it would come this fast. I'll say that. Like, I thought it would be like
really? I thought it would be faster.
I thought he was gonna get sent down. And then it was going to be like the case of once he gets sent down to the minors and they feel, and a team's like, well, we don't need him on our NHL team, but we wouldn't mind him on our AHL group sort of thing. Then he would get moved. Yeah. For him to get moved while he's still in the NHL thing is surprising to me. Just to give you a quick little info, those shirts that we sold and everything, so far I think they've raised about $120 for charity. And because he's gone now, because he's traded now, we're not going to keep him up much longer. I think we're going to do maybe one more week, and that's it, sort of thing. I will post on Twitter when we decide to make that like official.
We need to wait for him to like play an NHL game so it doesn't seem super mean-spirited. You know what?
I don't
know. Now
know.
I think about it, we totally jinxed him getting traded.
Did we?
Because I messaged you and said, hey, we should update people on how much we've raised so far with the Always Tired Juolevi shirts.
Right.
And then like 48 hours later, he was
gone. Yeah, that's right.
Sorry, guys.
You did call the Chase on thing though. You said, you know what, he's going to get he's going to get basically the same contract that Brandon Sutter got, which we should also talk about today. But just to give like, and to kind of like roll a little bit past the Juolevi thing for a second into like who they got. Juolevi, I did a little bit of research on him coming over from Florida. The big thing for him is, and Jim Benning mentioned this in his press conference yesterday, I don't know if you heard it, but they expect him to be on the NHL team, and he was taking line rushes today on the third line. And the thing that Jim Benning brought up most was that he's versatile in the way that he can play in both the third and the fourth line, and that he can kill penalties, and that he's got penalty killing experience. He also made very important mention of he's a big guy, which concerned me. But you know what? Like Drancer talked him up a bit. Like he feels pretty comfortable there. And I did look it up. He did get penalty kill time under Joel Quenneville in Florida, which is not nothing.
That's something.
He did not get a lot of ice time, more or less. Most of his games, I believe, were 11 minutes or under. We're 11 minutes or under. The only game that he really got a couple like big minutes were late in the year. One of which was against Tampa, where he got a shorthanded goal by basically fooling Andrei Vasilevsky into giving him the puck. It was very funny.
I'm sold.
Yeah, I'm sold too. Lammikko is going to probably get opportunities right out of the gate on your third or fourth line, especially as the PK guy, which again makes you question why they gave up Di Giuseppe and why they gave up all these other guys, because in theory they already had him there.
Well, I guess when we say
Lammikko can't score. He's not a scorer.
Nobody claimed Di Giuseppe, so like it's not like they lost him or anything.
No.
But they took the risk by putting him on waivers.
Yeah, which is weird in a sense when you didn't really need these other guys, but then you bring them in anyway. With Lammikko, I think he'll do okay. I'm interested to see how quickly they feel he can jump into the group right now. Because I would imagine in the early, my thought process was, he's the 13th guy. He's not going to play right away. He's going to get his opportunity. But no, Patan was the 13th forward, and Lammikko was getting rushes with, I believe,
Patterson.
No, I believe it was with Höglander. Oh, okay. No. Sorry, my mistake. He was the fourth line center, Dowling on the wing, Podkolzin on the right. So interesting fourth line.
Well, right.
But yeah, that means that kind of means they feel he's already ready to go and that he can step in immediately, which I question. But I mean, also, I don't think Patan is going in that spot. Like, you're not putting him on the fourth line. So where do you put him from there? That's going to be interesting. Highmore on the third is very wild.
So that's where we get into like I was kind of like going, ugh, best top 9 they've had in a while. Because I'm like, Highmore in your top 9 that's a bad sign. Yeah,
and that's largely due to the fact that, it's partially due to the fact that Besser's out. And Besser being out, because I hate that I was right about Besser. Like, in terms of, like, in the sense of, like, we didn't talk, like, on the last week we talked about how they met when they mentioned that Besser was out. I saw that as a huge red flag because I didn't think that they would mention that if he were just gonna miss the preseason. And sure enough, this has also been just generally weird in the sense of, like, is it just me, or this year in particular so far has it been really hard to keep track of where the injured guys are?
I feel like it kind of is a bit more because I feel like they're not dishing information that well.
Yeah.
Like the Hamonic situation on its own is like a complete clusterfuck of information. It's a clusterfuck of information because there's
TV.
There's such a lack
censoring
of information or certainty around what the hell that situation's all about.
So many of their injury situations or like situations at all of why players aren't here are such like question marks. Like with Mott is the only one I think we have even kind of an inkling about because we've seen him at training camp and we've seen him attending events and attending things.
They were just like, oh, he had surgery in the off season and he's still recovering.
Yeah.
But they didn't even specify what it is. It's just like, yeah, he's recovering.
He's injured. That's it. That's all we got.
Yeah, it's a bit bizarre. And then the Besser injury, no information on what it really was that was setting him back. But apparently he's coming on the road trip. And
which is a very good sign, yeah.
Which is what they need because they cannot afford to fall behind in this 6-game road trip against mostly beatable teams. I think they play, like Detroit, Buffalo. Like,
Yeah.
who they play? It's not a great.
It's not a here. I'll take a look at the schedule, and it's crazy. Like again, first of all, I'm thrilled that we get to talk about actual real games that mean something again against teams that aren't just the Canadian ones that we've been talking about forever.
I miss preseason already.
You miss God, do you? Terrible.
Yeah.
Man. Yeah, I believe they play Detroit. They play Philly, I think, as well. I think Philly is the Friday. I want to say Philly is the Friday and Detroit is the Saturday. I think they have a back-to-back there.
Okay.
I could be wrong on that, but I believed that is the what I checked last. Yeah, they start with 6 games. They end in Seattle with that inaugural home opener
Right.
at the Climate Pledge Arena. So that name's going to take some getting used to. Overall, this group is a bit of a hodgepodge. I guess we'll get into like kind of like our expectations for this group now that we kind of know exactly what we're getting out of them. Like,
right. Do we want to get into I guess we'll get into our predictions on the season.
Do you like for the whole league or just
Yeah.
the okay, yeah, because here's the thing. We have a whole this is basically the second half of the show now. We're getting into the back half here because and I'm sure we'll do like a little preview of the Edmonton game like at the end here. But like as far as like the NHL is concerned, there is a lot of stuff to go over, and especially because this year in particular, so much changed about the group. I'm looking at there's new broadcasters. I'm looking at my TV right now and I'm seeing freaking Mark Messier on my screen, which aggravates me to my core.
What a bummer.
What a bummer. But I think we're going to get into kind of like the key things that might want to hear about like teams, especially because again, like last year was so hard to keep up on what anything did. And now half the players have changed teams.
And, I mean, then last year alone felt like such a gas leak year, and then preseason went so badly and all these injuries, and you're like, wait, is the gas leak year still going?
God, you hope so. God, you hope it's done at this point. Doesn't
feel like it. But
yeah. Let's start. Do you want to start with the Pacific?
Yeah, let's do it because my expectations of this team, having seen the injuries, having seen, like, just looking at the defense of the Canucks, I cannot in good conscience rate them that high.
Really?
Yeah, I just can't.
Okay.
The right side is just it's awful.
See, but honestly, this is the kind of the interesting part about this preseason is maybe the defense has been such a concern, but the one group we haven't talked about much at all during during this month so far has been the goaltending, because Thatcher Demko we know is a solid safe bet and he's going to do very well.
He didn't look so hot in preseason.
Was that him or was that just the team not being good? Like,
well, it's not going to change in the regular season. It's still the same team.
I think it's just him ironing out the bugs more or less.
I hope you're right, because the team's paying him $5 million to be the number one, and if
maybe I just wasn't paying enough attention, but I didn't think he looked particularly bad necessarily.
No, I don't think it was his fault, but like if at the end of the day, like you need a guy who can be a hero when your defense is that bad. Like that's what Markstrom's whole thing was, and why he was back-to-back MVP. And if Demko is only providing 900 goaltending because the defense is that bad, then they're screwed. Yeah,
they need lights out goaltending, which again is wild considering how much time they've had to figure that out, and they still haven't. I will say that I still have a lot of faith in the Canucks, maybe not so much the Canucks themselves as in the rest of the division to not be very good. Because looking at the rest of the group, and I guess we'll kind of go through them here. Anaheim, for example, like that's
guaranteed
bottom finish, I would say. Maybe the Sharks, maybe they pass the Sharks. I think the odds on that are pretty slim.
Yeah.
I think overall, like the Ducks they didn't add anyone new. They lost Danton Heinen, Ryan Miller retired. Like they're not going anywhere. They're not going anywhere fast. They're very much in the full rebuild to the point where like last year, I believe they purposely did not have Jamie Drysdale up for long periods of time. And who's their other big
Zegras?
Zegras, thank you. They purposely kept them in San Diego for large stretches of the last season, specifically because they were like, this team isn't going anywhere very quickly, and we don't want to stick them on a team that's losing a bunch of games, which is frankly a very smart thing to do.
Smart.
And that's a very smart call. I don't see them going anywhere. I don't know about you. Do you feel like is there John Gibson might steal some weird games?
John Gibson is trying his hardest.
That should just be their like their marketing campaign. The Anaheim Ducks, look, John Gibson is trying his hardest. That's just and with like the shrug emoticon.
Yeah, like, he's tried for so long to carry that or to buoy that franchise that like they might as well just rename the entire organization just like the Anaheim John Gibsons,
the mighty Gibsons of Anaheim
Gibsons,
the mighty Gibsons,
and then make the logo like a guitar.
There you go. Oh, that's genius. I didn't even think of that connection. That's good. My thought process just went to like, I don't know, what is the Sunshine Coast mascot or something like Gibson's BC.
Yeah.
Let's go there. Like, it's just the ferry. It's just the ferry.
Hell yeah.
It's just the BC ferries and their insanely high prices. Calgary, they made some moves, but like a lot of them, and yet I don't feel like they actually improved. I feel like they got worse.
I don't think they actually addressed any of the issues that they needed to sort because their locker room is clearly like a complete tire fire.
Yeah.
And they lost their captain. And who did they bring in? Like Blake Coleman on like
Blake
a big
Coleman's
deal?
very
Which
good.
He's good, but I mean...
At that cap hit, maybe not so much.
Yeah, but it's just... You don't replace like your number one defenseman who's also your captain.
Yeah.
Like you need to kind of do that. You need a replacement plan kind of.
The one thing I can see going in the Flames' favor is the fact that they added Dan Vladar from Boston for the backup role because obviously they lost David Riddick last year.
Yeah.
To back up Jacob Markstrom. I think Vladar is a pretty good goalie, like in terms of like your 1B option right now. He's still a younger guy developing, but I think he's a decent 1B. If he's able to hold the fort down and
they don't have to
Calgary
play Markstrom 55 games or 60 games or
and
whatever it is.
And the Flames figure out that they do, and Daryl Sutter is going to be interesting. I don't know if he knows this, but don't ride Jacob Markstrom 70 games. Do not do that. You're going to hurt him. You're going to get him hurt again. If they learned how to manage the goaltending, I think better this year, they might they could make the playoffs. I think they'll make it just based on that alone. Because that torpedoed them last year. Was they completely overcooked Markstrom, which I specifically told them not to do because he's a little bit injury prone, just a little bit. And sure enough, they cooked him and they were screwed. And I actually mentioned this on Locked On today that I don't think they'll make the playoffs based on simply on the fact that they're trying too hard to be two different things. They don't know what they are. They don't know if they're Johnny Gaudreau's team or if they're Matthew Tkachuk's team. And until they figure that out, they're screwed.
A little bit.
Yeah.
I think what did I have them? I had them below Vancouver.
I had them far below Vancouver. I have them in fifth. I have them out of the playoffs.
Yeah, because for you and I had the exact same like kind of setup, right? 6, 7, 8. It's going to be the California teams.
Yeah, LA is the only like
they might
wild
surprise
card.
And like maybe they go on a heater. Jonathan Quick plays out of his mind.
Yeah. I think it's I think Cal Peterson is the guy now. They did add Phil Deneau and Victor Arvidsson.
Yeah,
those are
two really good pickups.
Those are good pickups, and they don't break the bank, but they're both very solid choices for what they're able to do.
Yeah,
and then of course Alex Edler. So they have our good friend and our good friend.
He's
Eddie
going to
Eagle.
score his 100th goal against.
He is
Vancouver.
100% going to score his 100th goal against Vancouver, and it's going to be in LA too. It's not even going to be in Vancouver for the crowd to actually appreciate it because I think if Alex Edler scored in Vancouver, the whole building would cheer. Like even if it's like an overtime winner.
Look for the management group if that happened.
Would it? No, I don't think it would be in that particular case. Like I think it would be a lot like remember when Sundin scored the shootout winner for the Canucks against Toronto? There's the thing of talking about the Canucks going to haunt other people.
There you go.
That's the one. That's the best one. That and the whole like Air Canada Center cheered that goal, even though they just lost the game. I think that's what it would be, kind of more that case of like the old vet who did everything he could, getting his moment to shine.
Darndest.
I think the Kings could surprise. I still think they've got a ways to go.
They can surprise, but it's not going to be like for a playoff spot.
No.
I'd be shocked if they did. I'd be pleased if they did because it'd be fun. But,
that would be fun. That would be fun if they made a real push for it. But I still think they got some work to do.
But I think, so for me, I have the top 4, Vegas, Seattle, Edmonton, Vancouver. And I think Vancouver is going to be decent enough to at least be a wild card team.
Yeah.
But I think Seattle's defense is arguably like they've landed like a legit bottom 6 like immediately out of the expansion draft.
Yeah.
And signed some pretty good options as well. I mean,
yeah.
If you want to sow discord in like your opponents, like what better way than to steal the Calgary Flames captain and make him your captain, even though he's on a 1-year contract.
And I thought
only?
that was a weird choice at the time because I was like, he's old. How much are you gonna get? You're gonna get 1 year out of this guy. Maybe you should have gone for like Oliver Shillington, who's younger, and maybe he's not gonna make the same immediate impact, but. They did it. They took him. And, I think the Kraken are going to be in the playoff contention. They're not going to be Vegas again. And that is because NHL teams figured that out the last time, not to just give away, say, I don't know, Jonathan Marchessault and Riley Smith in one trade. I think people figured that out this time, and they did not they were not able to make the same moves that the last team could.
Yeah.
And which is, of course, why Vegas is my division winner. I think that's clear and obvious. The one thing that I will say that I have different from you, this is the hot take here, is I have the Canucks in second. I think the Canucks are going to finish.
That is a hot take, my friend.
I think the Canucks, as far as they obviously don't have Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl. But I will say that as far as where the issues lie for both of those teams, either they cancel each other out relatively similarly, or the Canucks have the upper hand. Mm-hmm. In goal, who would you rather have? Would you rather have Thatcher Demko and Yarrow Halak as the 1B? Or would you rather have 40-year-old Mike Smith and flight risk Mikko Koskinen? I'm picking the Canucks in the goaltending department, hands down.
Is Koskinen a flight risk, though?
He was not good.
I thought you meant like in the sense like he might just like up and leave.
Oh, okay. Sorry. I guess that was a poor analogy on my part, but like, he's inconsistent. That's the word I was looking for. He's very inconsistent. Sometimes he's very good. Most of the time he's not.
I just can't bet against McDavid. That's my only thing.
I can't bet against McDavid either. The thing is, but I can bet against the rest of his team. I can't bet against everyone else he has to play with. Like their answer to fixing their defense was Duncan Keith and Cody Ceci. Those were their decisions.
And ditching Ethan Bear, and signing Zach Hyman.
They lost Adam Larson. They lost. Yeah, they're not. Their defense is worse this year than it was last year, and it wasn't very good to begin with. I would say in that case, that is where I say they cancel each other out. I think the Canucks defense is arguably I think you could argue just
they're
because
probably
of Quinn Hughes,
on par, maybe slightly better because of Hughes.
And that's it. Like if Quinn Hughes wasn't there, the Oilers would cook them.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it more or less cancels out. In the forward group, I think the Canucks have more forward depth. I think they're maybe they don't have the best two in Draisaitl and McDavid. But they have Pettersson, they have Besser, they have Horvat, they have Miller, they have maybe Podkolzin, Höglander, et cetera, Connor Garland. Mm-hmm. They have a much more well-rounded offensive group when healthy.
Garland and his one preseason point.
And I honestly think like if you look at say the last 5 minutes of that preseason game against the Oilers, if they find a way to play more like that
but
for a full
all
60,
the time,
well, like they're capable of that. I think maybe not to like that same hard press level, but like to find that intensity. Yes. I think they can do it, and I think they'll finish second. I think the Oilers will finish third, and then I have Seattle in my wild card spot.
Fair. All right, let's bang through the Central. No one really cares about the Central, unless you're a Winnipeg Jets fan like me, which I just put them in the wild card selection with St. Louis.
I have Winnipeg in second because I like their defense. I like their defense this year. They have, I think Nate Schmidt.
Speaking of castaways, that might that's gonna be come to haunt the Canucks. Nate Schmidt
is an interesting one. I am interested to see how Pierre-Luc Dubois does this year in a full year with a regular season with them.
Yeah.
They have Brendan Dillon now, who's a very good shutdown defenseman.
I think they really improved their defense.
They really fixed some of their flaws, very well. Again, it comes down to you hope Connor Hellebuck doesn't get hurt to a certain degree. They did lose Mason Appleton, which is a bit of a loss, but it's not the end of the world. They have Kyle Connor, they have Scheifele, they have a very good core group on offense. I think they're going to do very well this year, and I think the Central has opened up a little bit now because obviously Arizona completely bottomed out. They're committed
to the tank.
They're very committed to the tank. which I'm sure will help them a whole lot in trying to get that new arena that they desperately need. Chicago is still a non-factor, even with maybe especially with Seth Jones. I don't think that improved them at all. They did not. They went into this and frankly good, especially after the off season that they've had. Good. I'm glad they don't look good. They don't deserve to be good right now.
We have the exact same bottom four in the exact same order.
Yeah, St. Louis, Nashville. They're mid rebuild. They're mid rebuild. I think UC Saros is very good though.
Saros is good, but what Nashville's doing is what the Canucks or what Benning did when he first took over the Canucks, which was like the rebuild on the fly kind of thing. They think
they still can get like one last shot out of them,
but I think anyone watching that team the last few years knows like they need to start from scratch.
Yeah, that defense is not what it used to be. Yeah, that defense was once very very good.
But if you're David Poile and you've been a GM for 30 whatever years and you've got 0 cups to your name, you're doing the retool on the fly as much as possible because you need every kick at the can you can get.
St. Louis is an interesting one because, like, frankly, I think they are probably a little better than they it's one of those weird spots
like
where they're
won
both
the cup, right?
Yeah,
it's like they should be so much better than like they appeared to be at that point when they were the worst team in the division or in the league. Sorry.
I just don't. You know what? Like maybe it's just because I've seen them play against the Canucks in the bubble, but they don't like. They're one of those teams that like doesn't scare me. Like I feel like there are teams that obviously like Vegas is a big one. Yeah. Obviously, Colorado is another one. There are certain teams that whenever they play the Canucks, no matter like what spot they are in the standings, I'm like, oh, I'm actually like scared of this team that's coming up that they're playing. St. Louis doesn't scare me as a group. I think they're not that. I think they got very much figured out last year. I think Jordan Binnington got exposed big time, and in the fact that
which is
he's
great.
Like a fine, like he's an okay goalie. He is not the superstar you think he is. No. He's like he's still one of the 30 best goalies in the NHL, which is a huge thing, but he is not nearly as good as I think people think he is. He is Mr. Bounce Back, meaning he is not very good half the time. I don't think they make the playoffs here. I think Dallas is going to have a rebound because they missed last year.
Yeah, they got brutalized by COVID, so you just know they're going to probably bounce back. Yeah. Jason Robertson's going to take another level.
Minnesota is the interesting one because they lost. Obviously, they got rid of Parise and Suter. They got rid of those 2 big contracts. They got Kirill Kaprizov re-signed, and he's incredible. Mm-hmm. My big question for them is they don't have a lot of time because, like you and I looked at their cap numbers, and they get hit with a huge cap recapture next year, I think, or something.
The next 3, so the 3 years following this season, they feature $12 million hits, $14.7 and $14.7 million hits for the Parise and Suter buyouts. Yeah. So they've structured their cap in such a way where like they can still do things with Kaprizov and Eriksson Ek and like kind of build around that. But obviously isn't exactly ideal when you have to plan your team around having less than 14 million allocated to guys who will never dress for your team in the season. Yeah. Like that's difficult to do. But I trust their drafting guy. Speaking of guys who might come back to haunt the Canucks.
Judd Brackett.
A lot of people praised their draft, I believe. So,
and one thing I do want to say as well before we move on to, I guess we'll go into the Atlantic next. Colorado. I think you and I both are very much in the adamant that they're going to win the division. I will say that I have them first place because I think they are the best team there. Mm-hmm. But I would like it on the record that I am very concerned about their goaltending situation. Not because I don't think Darcy Kemper and Pavel Francouz aren't good. I think they're both very, very good when healthy. Yeah. The problem is both of them are very injury prone. In fact, Francouz is injured right now.
Of course.
Kemper is a guy who I've often said is one of the most underrated goalies in the NHL.
He was very good for Arizona.
He was very good. He did not get the credit he deserved for what he was able to do in Arizona. Yeah. And a lot of that was partially due to the fact that he got hurt quite often.
Yeah.
And I am worried for Colorado, because I saw what happened to them in the bubble when they had to go all the way down to Michael Hutchinson and Hunter Miska, I think was their fourth. I think they had him in there as well.
Yikes.
And because they literally lost their goalies. Like Grubauer was also kind of an injury-prone guy, but he was a little bit more rock solid as far as like stable goaltending is concerned.
Yeah.
These guys are a little bit more of a, not a risk. I guess a risk is the best way to put it. But and then you throw the injury thing on top of that. I think that if they're able to stay healthy, their goalies stay healthy, they'll be fine. If they get hurt, I think they might be in trouble. I don't think they can I don't think they're going to be in as good a spot if they lose both of those guys. I think they can really torpedo their year.
It's very interesting because I think a lot of the teams this year do have like that Achilles heel thing where
there's
some of the top teams where it's like if X thing happens, they are not good.
Yeah.
Like they are in danger zone. Like
this
I think
is a pure chaos year in a lot of ways.
It'll be exciting because last year was a chaos year with only 56 games to prove it, and this year's 82 games to prove how chaotic it can be.
Last year was chaos in a bad way. This year is chaos in the actually fun way. In the actually fun way.
Well, moving on with the chaos then. At the Atlantic Division, we agreed on the entire way except for our wild card picks.
Okay.
Because you chose Boston as one of your wild cards. I did not. I had Montreal, as you did as well.
Yes.
But top to bottom, Florida, Tampa, Toronto, Montreal, Boston, Ottawa, Detroit, Buffalo. I would be shocked if this is our least accurate prediction.
No, this feels like the most rock solid. I will say that, what we saw from Ottawa last year in terms of like in the second half of the season, they were, I believe, the hottest team in the NHL, in the last half,
they played very good.
Which was not nothing. Like that was 56 games. That's 20 something games. Like that's a long stretch to be one of the best teams in the league. And they did a very good job. They almost made the playoffs. They might have made the playoffs with a little more runway. Obviously the big thing for them is Brady Tkachuk is still not signed, which is baffling. I think they signed Tyler Ennis a couple days ago just to make sure they weren't under the cap floor.
I'm pretty sure, that put them over the cap floor,
which is
so pathetic.
Wild in the sense
pathetic.
of like, why the hell have you not just give him his contract? I mean, I don't know what he wants. Just give it to him. You're not going to win games without him.
Yeah.
And although I think they've done okay actually in the preseason so far, they looked okay. Detroit, they got Alex Nedeljkovic, which is a steal for them, but it's still not enough to move the actual needle for what their team needs. There's still a long ways to go. And Buffalo is Buffalo. Like, geez. Oh God. We talked about Eichel last time. We're not talking about him again.
We're not talking about Eichel anymore.
It's just sad. They're screwed. They're very much screwed. Boston and Montreal. This is the weird stuff because Montreal, they're without Shea Weber, who might be career-ending injury.
I think he's toast.
I would be inclined to agree with you there. Which, if that is true, keep an eye on Nashville because they're going to be in huge trouble if he retires.
I believe they modified the rules though, so they can't get hit with that $22 million.
Oh God, they'll
hit.
I know, weird. NHL, they'll modify the rules for every team that isn't named the Vancouver Canucks, and that's not a me being like a biased hockey fan. Literally, I think every single other cap or capture penalty has been adjusted. Except the Canucks with Luongos. Yeah, so every other one has gotten some sort of like exemption or something.
It'll still be like a big hit. It's just like the cap recapture penalty can't exceed the player's actual cap hits. So I think the max he would be whatever his was at 9.85 over
a lot of money.
2.5 years or whatever.
And that means if Nashville is spending up to the cap, they have to somehow unload about $10 million off your books very quickly.
It'll help their rebuild.
It will help their rebuild. Montreal is also missing Carey Price, who I don't know if we mentioned on the last episode. He is, or we did talk about it. We did. That did happen in that time. Okay,
so that's definitely one of the main factors of like where we both had the Canadians in fourth, but Jake Allen could
be very good. I think Jake Allen is underrated.
Yeah, but if he plays like shit.
Then
their being in fourth hinges on good goaltending basically because I think their decor is decent enough. Their forward group's pretty
They
solid
just
too.
re-signed Nick Suzuki to his to a big extension.
Yeah.
They're in a spot where they also lost a lot though. That's the big thing for like this is the reason why I don't even have them in a guaranteed spot right now is because looking at them from the team that went to the Cup final last year to now, they lost Phil Deneau, who is huge for them. He was a big part of why they got that far. Jesperi Kotkaniemi, whether or not you think he got paid too much or not, that's still a loss of some kind. Sure. They did get Christian Dvorak in a trade, which was not bad.
Sure.
But I don't see, they're not as strong this year, in my opinion, as they were last year. I think they're a little bit weaker. And especially the goaltending situation really throws a wrench in there. So I still think they'll make the playoffs. They're just in a wild card spot.
Mm-hmm. They picked up David Savard, who I think is actually a pretty decent defender.
Yeah, he's a very decent defenseman.
I can't bet against Goal Caulfield. I just can't do it.
No, you can't. That's true. That's very true.
He's very fun.
Him and Suzuki, for that matter.
Yes.
Boston I just wanted to touch on very quickly because they lost. So they're basically the same team as last year. The big thing that's missing for them now is Tuukka Rask.
And everyone's very old.
And everyone is very old. That's very true. That's an old group. Yeah. I do not think. I think their goaltending tandem. I said this on Lockdown today. It's Jeremy Swayman and Linus Ullmark. Who, by the way, the Sabres lost losing Linus Ullmark. God, he was your one good player. I think specifically Bruins fans are about to find out just how much Tuukka Rask was masking some issues for them and some like the Achilles heels for them. I think I think they're about to realize, oh, we actually really needed him to win a lot of games, and which they'll deserve because God, they rode that poor guy way more than he deserved. He was one of the best goalies in the league for years, and they gave him so much crap.
They sure did.
They're gonna feel it this year for sure.
Yeah, that's why I don't have him as a wild card team because I'm pretty sure they're gonna be hooped on the goaltending side of things.
Any particular reason that you picked Florida over Tampa in the same? Because we both did.
I picked it from probably the same sense or the same logic as you did in that Tampa lost a lot over the offseason and they're replacing it with like internal develop pieces, which is fine and that's good.
It must be nice.
It's a track record that they've done it time and time and again and it's worked out. But in a year where they've just won back-to-back cups, so they've played a shit ton of hockey in the past 12 months. I can't imagine like the three-peat's going to be easy, and trusting a very young and inexperienced group to do it a third time, lead the division. Like I just don't think it's going to happen, and I think Florida's on the up and up. I think they're going to settle their goaltending issues pretty shortly.
Yeah.
And yeah, I don't know. Just
Looking
a feeling,
at their,
just a vibe.
I'm looking at their subtractions. Some of them I forgot specifically. Like so, Blake Coleman's in Calgary now. Tyler Johnson. I don't know where Tyler Johnson is.
Chicago.
Chicago. Okay. The big one is Yanni Gourd. Yanni Gourd was a huge part of that team, and that was the biggest loss for them. Was Gourd losing? Gourd was the biggest loss for them.
He is very, very, very good at 5v5.
They were guaranteed to lose either him or I believe Andre Palat. And I think Palat is considered the better of the two. Am I wrong? Or maybe I'm wrong.
I don't think he's much better. He's older and he's only got 1 year left on his
so maybe
deal.
Gourd was the better guy. But either way, I think you'll see what happened. Not in the same way as Pittsburgh did when they won back-to-back cups. Because that was also partially their own doing. Like they undid themselves trying to change the way they played.
Sure.
I think in Tampa's case, you're going to see something more in line with, I guess, with Chicago and with LA, I think is a good example of where you've played so much hockey over such a short period of time that your body just can't do that again. You can't do that these days. Like you can't play 82 games, go through 4 rounds of playoff hell and come out of it like feeling unscathed. And to do that 3 times in a row is very difficult and very taxing on your body. And for Florida's case, they were
really fun to watch, so that's why I have a feeling they're just going to carry that momentum into the regular season.
I feel like Florida, and maybe this is just because the Canucks and the Panthers have been trade partners a lot over the last however many years that both teams have been in existence together.
Yeah.
And also just the shared love of both Roberto Luongo and Pavel Bure.
Mm-hmm.
But I think Vancouverites really like the Panthers, generally speaking. Like, there's a lovable aspect to them of we want the Panthers to do well. Like, I want to see the Panthers succeed. I would love nothing more than to see them win a playoff round. Like,
really?
Yes, I would love. Out of any team in the NHL, I want them to win a playoff round more than anybody else.
I think it's funny if they never do, and they're just constantly at the dance, like kind of like the Columbus thing, where where like for years they were always there, but they could never
I'm okay
get out
with
the first
that.
round.
I mean, I'm okay with that with like Toronto or something, but with Florida specifically, I really want to see do well. I want them to not have to like paper the building to make it look like they have a sellout. I want them to actually be able to sell out games. Because I like that market. I like that like fan that fan base. Overall,
this is when I would usually make like a all 10 of them type joke.
All 10 of them, yes. Yeah. And they just signed Barkov to that big new contract, which he's very deserving of. He's a very good hockey player.
Mm-hmm.
He's
a very significant.
He's not the most underrated player in the league anymore. That's ship sailed. He's very well valued now, rated now. I think it does come down to will they play Sergei Bobrovsky too much? Will they figure out very nice and quickly that, okay, I know we're paying him $10 million, but Spencer Knight is the better goalie.
More importantly, will Sergei Bobrovsky be any good?
God, they need him to be. They need him to be so badly. And that's not just because Spencer Knight was good. Like, Spencer Knight is the better of the two goalies right now, as far as I'm concerned. The problem being that because Bobrovsky's making $10 million, you kind of have to play him anyway.
As a 33-year-old?
Does okay. Oh man, talk about what happens when you stop paying Ian Clark. That's what happens right there. I mean, that's a good example of what happens when you don't have Ian Clark anymore.
Hey, Bob got paid. He got what he wanted.
He got his money, that's for sure. Yep.
Whoever the GM was decided to sign a 30-year-old goaltender to a 7-year, $10 million.
Dale Talon. That was Dale Talon's doing. It was his parting gift.
Who knew?
It was parting gift before he was let go.
It's a brilliant man. All right, last division.
Yes.
We'll blaze through this one.
This is the
Metro.
This is a weird one. This is a weird one.
Yeah. I hardcore disagreed with your first place. Real bad.
Now, are you just okay? Now, here's the thing. Are you just disagreeing with my pick because of one of the players that they signed, or are you disagreeing because you actually don't think that they're the best team?
No, I think they had low-key like a horrendous offseason.
It was a rough one.
I disagreed with so many of their player acquisitions. I would be shocked if they were anywhere in the top 4.
Yeah, I might change my decision. I might change my decision there. I've just seen them like the last couple of years being like, oh, they're getting there. They're so on the cusp. We're talking about the Carolina Hurricanes for anyone not paying attention. I put the Hurricanes first. I would be open to changing that one out of any of my picks simply because they lost Alex Nedeljkovic because they didn't want to pay him $3 million. But then somehow decided to, that was worth Jesperi Kotkaniemi was worth double that.
Yeah.
Okay.
For the memes.
For the memes
and the dreams.
Which, I mean, from a content standpoint, great.
Yeah.
From a goaltending,
wonderful.
from a practical goaltending standpoint, no.
Oh, no.
They have Freddie Anderson, who is good when healthy. They have Antti Ranta, who's good when healthy. And they did get Ethan Bear. Ethan Bear was a good pickup for them.
Yeah, it's fine.
Yeah.
That's not Dougie Hamilton.
That's not Dougie Hamilton.
That's the thing.
Well, to be fair, I don't know. Like, as much as I think Dougie Hamilton is a very good defenseman, the Devils paid $9 million for him. I think that might have been a leap. Am I wrong there?
Honestly,
like,
relative to...
I mean, maybe it's just a leap for the Devils because they're so not good right now.
Okay, I actually had a hard time picking the Metro because I think New Jersey had a pretty decent offseason, and I don't think overpaying on Hamilton's really that far-fetched when you consider guys like Seth Jones got paid $8 million or $9 million or whatever it was.
For sure.
Or
Darnell
Nurse got his extension that's like ridiculous. I don't think it's that out of place, to be completely honest.
Sure. Okay.
But I found ranking this division the hardest to do just because I think there's a lot of these teams that had really quiet off seasons or had very bizarre off seasons.
Yes.
So Carolina was one that had a
Roll
bizarre
through 'em.
off season. New Jersey, I think, had a good one. Pittsburgh didn't do anything. Rangers,
Yeah.
they overhauled their entire team
The
philosophy.
Rangers completely changed because of one
man.
move by Tom Wilson, which is funny,
Yeah.
but also, good Lord,
Very bizarre.
what a way to
And then they
cap
traded
things off.
Pavel Buchnevich for nothing.
Oh, that's right, the Blues
then-
got Buchnevich. I forgot about that.
Yeah, for I don't know, for Krejcov or whatever.
Something
and then they
like a
put
very
it-
low.
Then they
very
told
low
him
price.
to look for whatever team you want to play for because you won't play for us.
Oh, is that the same guy? Get out of town!
Yeah.
Oh my God, that's
Just some
geez.
bizarre.
What a
bizarre
rough go
moves.
for them.
But yeah, like this is the division, of course, where all the teams that are aging, the Washingtons, the Pittsburghs, where you're like, is this the year where they're finally not a playoff contender? I think Pittsburgh's in that realm.
Yeah.
Washington, I feel like I pick it every year where I'm like, they just don't care. They won their cup. They don't care anymore.
I feel like they're in. I feel like my biggest concern was, okay, do they have, if they don't have goaltending, then they're in trouble. But if they have a goalie, they're fine. And they did get back Vitek Vanacek.
They did.
So
7
I think
chess.
I think they're okay. I think they're gonna be okay in terms of like a wild card spot.
Yeah. Sure.
The Rangers, I think in theory, maybe if they hadn't gone so nuts with we need to be big and hard and not let people beat us up anymore, even though this is 2021 and most teams don't play that way anymore. Their big acquisitions were literally Barclay Goodrow, who they paid way too much money for,
Yeah.
and Ryan Reeves, who I believe is now already hurt. Who I believe got hurt in a preseason game recently. I think he got tangled up with PK Subban in a preseason game, and now he's hurt. He's out for a while. They do have Adam Fox, who's a very good defenseman. I think they could.
I've heard he's good.
Yeah, I've heard he's good too. I think their
Won an award
I
or
think their
something.
defense and their goaltending could carry them to a wild card. I still have them on the. I think I still have them on the
I have 'em on
outside
the
looking in.
outskirts,
Yeah. Philadelphia is interesting because again, a lot of last year got undone for them because Carter Hart was awful. Now, you could make the argument that, hey, this is very much a similar case to the Canucks, where if you're expecting Carter Hart to be superstar amazing every night and he's not, and you're losing games because of that, that means your team wasn't built very well.
Right.
I would put the Flyers kind of in that category. They also lost Jakub Voracek. Voracek's gone.
Yeah.
I don't think they added anyone particularly well. Did they add anyone? They did add some interesting pieces. They added Ryan Ellis.
They overhauled their defense and they added Ryan Ellis, which was good. It's like that Simpsons meme where it's like, that's good.
Yeah.
Then they added
Rasmus
Ristolainen.
Ristolainen.
That's bad.
But you get your choice of topping.
That's good.
The toppings contain Derek Brassard and Keith Yandel and Martin Jones. That's bad.
Can I go now?
Yeah, exactly. Well done. That was not rehearsed. Martin Jones is, I'll put it this way, he's not really goaltending insurance. I do not like the way the Flyers handle their goalies. I do not. If I was going to expect Martin Jones to have a resurgence, Philly would not be a place I would expect him to do that.
Exactly.
Ever. No. I don't think I think they made some changes that I guess were for the better for the way that things were going there in those departments. But I don't think they improved really all that much. I think they're very much in the same spot they were last year. And yeah, they're not the team that won, that I guess finished first in the division. That's not this team. They're not a division first team.
No. They are a hockey team.
They are a hockey team. Did you have the Islanders in first place?
Yeah.
Which, here's the thing. That's probably right. That's the correct answer.
It's the worst answer.
It's the worst answer. I did not pick them up out
of spite?
Out of spite and principle. Hell no.
Yeah, fair.
I cannot I cannot watch another boring ass cup run from the Islanders. Please, no. Do not let this happen.
Remember
Now,
all their empty netters, though?
God, remember all those 2-1, 1-0 games that were so riveting? No.
So sweet.
God. They did lose Jordan Eberle and Nick Leddy, like Eberle being the bigger one of the two.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, I I don't know how much that really changes their overall complexion, but it that was a loss for your second line. I don't think it's enough to necessarily move the needle on how good they are, especially because they still have Matt Barzal there. I'd be interested to see how Ilya Sorokin does, and I think this is going to be his first year as the full-time starter, is it not? I think he's the guy going forward, or is it still Varlamov?
I believe Varlamov is on season-opening injured reserves.
Oh, there you go.
I
Sorokin.
guess he's the starter.
It's Sorokin. I think he'll do fine. I think Sorokin will do very well. I think they'll do okay.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to see if there's anyone else we should mention on that group. Yeah, I had Pittsburgh missing the playoffs.
Same.
Not because of. Here's the thing: if Crosby is healthy, if Malkin is healthy, I think they're fine.
Mm-hmm.
They don't have either of those guys. I think right now is Malkin good?
I think
Penguins
Malkin's
are literally on my television right now, so you think I would know?
Trying to read the numbers, like
yeah, I see. I see someone out there. For the most, at the very least, though, Crosby's not there, and I think they're like, I think they've been really kind of like, they're a team that's been really like trying to just like keep it going a little while longer. Like they're not in a spot where they're really, I think, a threat anymore.
I
think Tristan Jarry's performance against the Islanders the first round really opened some eyes.
I'm shocked he didn't get traded.
Really? You thought I see why you'd think, like I see why you'd go that direction.
Like the fourth episode we did when I did my book review of Brian Burke's autobiography, and his whole philosophy,
that was an original off the post.
Yeah, his philosophy as a GM was, at the end of every season, he likes to make a big splash with like a trade, or he evaluates the first year, then makes a big splash the next year with a big trade or acquisition or whatever. And I thought maybe he was just going to do it a little early and go, Jari, you're cut. I liked your hustle, but you're cut.
That's why it was so hard to cut you.
That's why it was so hard to cut
This year, his big acquisition was Brock McGinn. That was it.
Or Danton Heinen.
Did they get Danton Heinen?
Yeah, I think he scored.
Oh, there we go. I mean, they lost Jared McCann, who was very good for them, and Brandon Tanev, who, argue with how much they paid him or not, he did okay. He did okay for them, and that's a loss for them as well. They lost 2 top 9 guys.
He was okay enough for them to trade him. Or not trade him, but to get picked up by Seattle, who thought he was worth the contract he was signed to. Yeah.
And they traded Jared McCann to protect somebody else. I don't remember who it was.
Who knows with that roster, man? It's so old. Like,
remember, you know who could have really used Jared McCann? Toronto. The team that actually traded for him and then exposed him for, I don't know, to protect Michael Bunting, I guess. I don't know. Weird call there, but that's another team's problem. I think as long as the Penguins, they won their division last year. That's insane. I'm looking at their record.
That's how bad Tristan Jarry's performance was. That's why it was so shocking, is that he just blew it for them.
I also just don't think they were that good to begin with. I don't think they were really a first division team, a first place team in the real world. I think
it's hard to evaluate last season in general. Because there's a lot of you
can judge the individual, you can judge the individual performances as a group, as a unit altogether, kind of thing. But I don't think you cannot judge the records, I think, on much. Like, it's just too weird. And because of how many games they played against the same 6-7 teams, you just can't. It's not a really good way. It's not a really feasible way to look at it. Yeah. But I think Penguins are going to miss. I have the Capitals in the conversation, but I think they're going to fall. I think they're going to finish third, but they're not going to do well against the Islanders, I think, come that point in time.
I hate to break it to you, but Islanders are probably going to be pretty good.
The Islanders are going to be good.
So sorry, folks.
I guess to wrap up this conversation, if you had to pick a team that you felt could maybe make some real noise, or get into maybe become the favorite to win the cup or something. Yeah. Who are you picking right now? Who are you picking as your, let's say you're 2 finalists, and who wins?
Detroit Red Wings and Columbus Blue Jackets.
Even though they can't play each other in the finals, sure.
No, they're gonna
change the rules.
They're gonna change the rules just for them.
You know what? They should have. Honestly, though, I liked the reseeding last year. There was one thing I did like about the way the playoffs worked last year. I did like that they just went 1 through 4
Yeah.
reseeded there. I like the idea of potentially getting a random division matchup.
I
in the
wish
final.
they did that
That would
every
be
year.
that would be genius.
Yeah.
That'd be such a good marketing ploy.
I don't need the Pacific Finals. Like, I don't give a crap about that. Give me 1 to 4.
I would,
whatever,
but you'd
right?
care about the Pacific Finals if it was the cup or for the conference or something.
Yeah,
right?
if
Like,
it was for
there
the
you
conference
go.
for sure. But I don't need it like in the second
Yeah.
round or whatever.
Like, yeah, I remember when that idea was being floated around in like 2013 originally when they were having to realign because Winnipeg had come in, and there was talk of like under this format, in theory, the Canucks could play the Blackhawks in the Cup final, and everyone was like, "Oh, that sounds great."
Yeah.
Yeah. I think right now my teams. I think I'm keeping it still kind of simple. Actually, you know what? No, I'm gonna go a little off the board here. I'm gonna say. My very sustainable pick is Colorado, and then my other finalist is Florida. I'm going.
Okay.
I think we're gonna get the '96 rematch. We're gonna get the Avs versus the Panthers in the finals, but this time it will be good.
The matchup that almost killed hockey.
It did. It did kill hockey. Thank the
It
dead
ushered
puck.
in the worst era.
The devil. I was talking about this today. Lou Lamoriello's Devils ushered in the dead puck era.
Yeah.
The Panthers cemented it by going all the way to the final, even though they didn't win.
Yeah.
And then
But it was a proof of concept that this is how you can possibly do it.
And
it's
then
just by...
every single team was like, how can we play the most boring hockey imaginable? And it worked for years, and it's still kind of working today, but it's getting
But
it's
they
getting
switched
better.
it up so it's like a bit more exciting.
It's getting better.
The neutral zone trap is pretty brutal, but like it's at least tolerable when like they go a little ham. It forces the other team to be a bit more aggressive, both like physically and like on their forecheck and whatever. So I mean,
it's also just gotten much better because players have gotten faster and more skilled, and you have much less, say, like replacement level guys in your third and fourth,
hacking each other's faces.
Yeah,
with the stick
that's
'cause
all
they're
they're and that's
scheming the puck
all
away.
they're there for.
Yeah.
Like, it's gotten much better.
Yeah, I agree. Hopefully this episode got a lot better as it went on, folks, and we hope you liked our content. And if you want to support our content, don't forget we've got a Patreon where we've got $1 and $5 tiers available for you to subscribe, support the team, support our mic purchases, support our shoe cabinet purchases for old Lachlan over here. Don't forget
the Anna Forsyth shoe rack.
Yeah,
That's what it'll be called. It'll be dedicated to Anna for pointing it out and absolutely decimating me.
Title of this episode: $5 shoe racks.
$5 shoe racks.
Yeah, off the $5 shoe rack. But anyways, folks, you can catch us not in the shoe rack. You can catch us on Spotify, on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, any place you get your podcasts. Don't forget to rate, like, and subscribe. Follow us on YouTube and ding that bell.
Hit that bell, fam. That's what
bell.
the YouTubers say.
Throw some comments. Put some F's in the chat. You know how it be.
Yes.
What else?
Where can you find your work? Because you just went to training camp. We didn't even get a chance to talk about that today.
Not much happened. I talked to the coach and
That's
whatever.
cool. That's cool. That's still great.
Got a live reaction on the Juolevi trade.
That's great.
And
Again, that's really cool.
He had the groundbreaking statement of he's a good kid.
That's good.
You heard it here, folks. And if
you
you
go.
want to hear more of that, you can check me out, ahlnuxharvest.com. Game starting real soon. Game recaps coming right at you.
Yep.
I'm on Twitter at Cody Sievertson. Lachlan, where can they find you?
You can find me on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at Lach and the Crease. You can also find me on my website, lachandthecrease.com. I posted my preseason notebook article just today. It's a little out of date already simply because of some weird stuff that's gone down. But overall, go check that out. I put some notes down. And make sure to go check out also Locked On Canucks, which I do Monday to Friday with Nick Bondi. Today we talked about basically the same stuff, more or less the same stuff, just a little bit quicker
different.
paced,
A little spicier.
And by the time we do this show next on Thursday, we will be fully in. We'll have been through the first full Canucks game against the Oilers in Edmonton, and we'll be fully into actual NHL season. You ready for our first 82? Our first 82 game season as a podcast.
I'm not even ready for the AHL season, man. That's gonna be so much work. I can't cover NHL hockey at the same time.
Oh my God, and that is where you and I differ because I'm raring to go.
Well, not me. But anyways, thanks, folks. We'll catch you next time.
Bye.